Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3619. Today's date is the 2nd of October 2025. It's been almost like morning at 7:56 p.m. Sorry, a.m. Yeah. Um, should we jump into the question? Yeah, let's go. Let's right into it. Okay, wait. I just close it. Where is it? Okay. Okay. Question is, what if we invented a device to upload memories? Oh, that's a really good kind of like something question. Okay, yeah. First of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? Okay, this is what if question. Okay. Am I asking this question to myself to because of that? Ki, what if question is always been really interesting to give the answer. What if question is a force you to think about that point of perspective. I don't know, I just like love it to give any kind of like assembly answer regarding about what if. Also, yeah, the information that I'm trying to told you, I'm gonna telling you in this artifact is not exactly right, or it's not exactly wrong either. It's not. It is an artifact. It's a kind of like a something the a training wheel, a empty auditorium that I could practice my dance. I could practice my singing skill. I could practice this stuff. Okay, yeah. So don't consider it's a right thing. Okay, yeah. It's just what is actually my thought regarding about that particular stuff. Okay, now question is that okay, what if we could upload our memories? Upload? Yeah, what if we could invented a device that upload memories? Okay, I'm gonna tell you a couple of things at the moment. Okay, the stuff that you are actually hearing right now is called artifact episode. Artifact episode is a kind of like a something that ki I it's a kind of like a something the writing a diary, like you every single day wrote the diary about what exactly happened today and stuff like that. This is what exactly what I'm doing, but instead of writing I'm recording. Okay, so I am actually recording what is actually happened in my life every day, stuff everything. Okay, I am doing this thing for decade, and I'm doing this thing every single day. Every single day I just kind of like somebody came and I just record the artifact and talk about what exactly happened, things and that. My ideas, my goals, my plans, my everything, what is actually my thought regarding about people and everything is actually record in this artifact. It's the kind of like a simply library of entire thought process of me. Okay, yeah. So when this kind of like a question is actually arise that ki, what if we could upload or invented such a device that we upload our memories. This is my memories, these all those artifact is me, is my thought process, is everything. Okay, yeah. So basically are we able to kind of like did I invented that thing? I'm not really sure am I invented or not. Okay, yeah. it's a it's a kind of like a something is this thing that ki you wrote the kind of like a diary every single day and you have a diary of past 10 year, and you have entire data of what is actually happened on that particular day, that what is actually that you feel and things and that it works exactly like that. Okay, yeah. Now the question is that ki, is this kind of like accessible for everyone, like can everyone able to do this thing or not? Okay, now this question actually arise, then I'm gonna talk about couple of things. Okay, I wanted to make an application. Okay, yeah, a application where people would kind of like a record their artifact, kind of like something the way that I do. The people would gonna record the artifact. First of all, let me give you kind of like a somebody advantage or kind of like a somebody feel really good when I record the artifact. Like basically, what I'm trying to tell you, when I record the artifact, I I'm not only feel really good. It kind of like somebody improve my everything probably. Okay, I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing. It's a kind of like a thing that na ki example is this thing. Let's take a empty auditorium. Okay, yeah. You are a singer or you wanted to be a singer and you are not singing good at the moment, but you need a practice to sing. Okay, yeah. So where should I supposed to be practice? This is the artifact. This is the space. This is the kind of like an empty auditorium that you could practice your singing skill. In this kind of like a process, you might not gonna sing as well as you could, but probably it's a kind of like a simply a training net or a training wheel program or kind of like a simply a practice net that you could practice your singing and things like that. I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing, but when I like I'm actually recording this artifact for almost like a 10 year, and it add so much value inside of me that the person that I am right now and that person that I was is a kind of like a something drastically change. Yeah, my thought process change, the perspective of looking at the world change, my goals and ambitions are changed. Not goals and ambitions, probably is I the understand the purpose of my life. I don't know, I just like realization of kind of like a so many lot of things. Okay, yeah. And that is something really good. Something feels like I don't know, it felt really good. It felt like artifact is kind of like a help me to express the thoughts that is actually inside of me. We are actually living in this world where everywhere is kind of like a stress and things like that. Artifact is actually giving you that particular a moment, a particular thing that you just release your stress, you just express yourself, you just like that. There is no one is actually judging you, no one is actually kind of like listening to you, no one, just express yourself. In our entire period of lifetime, we actually kind of like a know lot of people, we actually met lot of people and things like that. But one of the most important person in our life we haven't really met. That particular person is kind of like responsible for change your personality, change whoever you are, change you to become better. And who is that particular person? That particular person is you. Yeah, artifact is kind of like a try to connect with yourself. And it it is something that naki, it is something that like how many times I said good, it just I don't know how, I don't really have any kind of like a simple answer for that. It just felt right in itself. That's it. uh Now this is kind of like a something that I'm actually experiencing this thing for last 10 year. Okay, yeah. And because of this thing, I realized that ki, what if this technique or stuff, if I could circulate this technique to the people, then we might kind of like a live with such a people where really smart, really good, really understand. They will control their emotions and things and that. Like basically because of this thing, it kind of like add value to me. So it is my job to kind of like only make sure that people should supposed to be get the same value that I get. Kind of like I wanted to kind of like promote this technique that somehow accidentally I invented that thing. Like accidentally, do you actually invented this accidentally? Well, I think yeah, because of that ki initially I started recording this artifact is not meant to be kind of like for all those things, not meant to be kind of like simply express my thoughts and things and that. No. I record this stuff is because of that ki I thought that ki my life is really good and I wanted to document my life. I don't know, yeah, but I wanted to document my life. I was highly inspired by a couple of things. Okay, yeah. The movie name Avatar, in that particular movie, the people who actually went to the another planet named Pandora. Now, that particular planet has a kind of like a simply environment where human would kind of like a simply lost their memory because of their environment and things like that. So the humans is actually kind of like invented such a technique. They would kind of like a record the log, means like that whatever exactly happened with them, they actually record every single day, kind of like a tell this is happened, this is happened, and this is happened, and this is happened. When I see that thing, I was really inspired that this particular thoughts or technique or things like that. Okay, yeah. And I also realized that I wanted to do that thing. I wanted to kind of like a simply record this kind of like a log and things like that. Okay, yeah. uh, so this is kind of like a simply I got inspired and I started recording artifact. Okay, by the way, it's not just happened that I just kind of like a seen the movie inspired and kind of like a next day I started recording. No, it's not happened that way. Basically it's this thing na ki I got inspired, I wanted to record the artifact, but I never really did because of that ki there is no have push or nothing really at all. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing recording artifact is a kind of like a something just a initial push that you have to be kind of like a push yourself to kind of like a record the artifact, because like right now I'm kind of like a recording artifact very freely and very kind of like a willingly and very kind of like a something very authentic way to, I don't know, but right now I'm enjoying this process of recording artifact. But when I started recording, at first recording it was really horrible. I was very awkward. I don't know how do I supposed to record the artifact, and I just like it's really awkward. I can't even speak more than a minute, and it's kind of like a very weird feeling. Okay, yeah. But still I decide that let's just continue. Let's just record only 1 or 2 minutes. Let's just be a continue. But still I haven't really been consistency that much. Like at the early stage of my life, sorry, at early stage of recording artifact, I was kind of like a taking a lot of breaks and leaves, and probably maybe within a week I would kind of like a record maybe once and twice and things like that. Okay, yeah. But there is a kind of like a good thing that ki, if I didn't really record the artifact, like okay, what exactly is this thing? Why am I kind of like somebody so much focus on recording artifact? Like at that time, I think that ki my life is really incredible. Oh yeah, I don't know why, but I think that ki my life is really incredible. Okay, yeah, and I wanted to document my life. That is a one thing. Okay, yeah. Another thing is that ki at that time when I started recording artifact, at that time I was going through such a horrific phase in my life. Okay, yeah. I am actually at that time I was kind of like a doing engineering diploma, and I fail in multiple subjects. Okay, and I fail in multiple subjects. Okay, and basically my parents are actually shouting at me that what are you doing with your life? You are failing again and again and again, because I was not really good at education, dude. Because let me tell you one thing, my engineering diploma, like basically engineering diploma kind of like a takes almost like a 2 year to complete the engineering diploma. It took me 5 year to complete the engineering diploma. 5 year, yeah. By the way, 2 year is came from what? Like I am actually direct second year na. Like basically I completed 11th and 12th standard. So after you complete the 11th and 12th standard, you can directly go into the second year of engineering diploma. So I directly went into the second year of engineering diploma, and basically it's this thing that he um, the engineering diploma kind of like a really required me to 2 year to complete. It took me almost like a 6 year, no sorry, 5 year to complete engineering diploma. I'm just talking about engineering diploma. Okay, I'm not talking about engineering. Engineering diploma is below than engineering. Okay, yeah. So do you understand na? Like basically my thought, my brain is like my regarding about study how fucked up I was. So I was actually failing in my education system. Okay, I was actually failing in my education. Another thing is that at that time I wanted to be a filmmaker, and at that time it's like I still wanted to be a filmmaker too. It's not really that I don't want to, but is that key? Like I was kind of like thinking about being a filmmaker and things and that. Okay, and and only one way that I could be a filmmaker is that I have to go to the Bombay and kind of like a simply just face the all the problem and became a filmmaker. This is the only thing that I was kind of like a simply imagine that I would gonna do. Okay, yeah. I also realize myself that ki I'm not really capable enough or I'm not really strong enough to kind of like a simply sustain this struggle or things like that, because I realize that ki my I'm not really capable enough to kind of like a sustain this struggle. I need a kind of like a something way to motivate myself to kind of like I can do this thing, I can do this thing, I can do this thing. But at that time, there is no one was there. There is no one. Yeah, I don't like. I have a friend. I have a couple of friends, but the thoughts that I wanted to express, I don't really have any one of that, and and that's why I just kind of like a simply recording artifact. I just kind of like a talk about shit. It's a kind of like a simply just talking to myself to kind of like a simply motivate myself regarding about every possible scenario. So this is a kind of like a simply drive me to kind of like a record the artifact. Okay, yeah. Every single day. And this is kind of like a simply became one of the really really good thing. Okay, yeah. Now I was kind of like a recording artifact for almost like a 10 year. Okay, yeah. And basically I started in 11th of February 2015. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, yeah. That means almost like a like basically 9, 8 year. I was kind of like a just recording artifact. Okay, yeah. It's just my artifact. I just some kind of like a record this stuff. I never really thought that I would kind of like a make an application and kind of like a simply people will kind of like a simply get the value and things like that. By the way, I mentioned this couple of technique, like I mentioned this technique to couple of my people. um, some people kind of like believe it, some people didn't really believe it. I don't know. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing that key recording artifact is a really hard technique. Okay, it's a kind of like a simply meditation. Okay, yeah. You know that it's gonna add value when you do meditation. I know it will gonna add value when you do meditation. But after you know everything that because of the meditation it will gonna add value, how many people will gonna how many people will gonna do the meditation? Obviously very less people. I am not one of those people. Like basically, sorry, I am one of those people too. That ki I'm not really, I haven't really done any kind of like a simple meditation at all. And when I started doing meditation, I just like not okay. Because let me tell you one thing na ki this is kind of like a very hard technique to record the artifact, to to kind of like do the meditation, because it really required a kind of like a simply internal drive to do that thing. Like basically, if I mention that ki you have to be record the artifact and this and it will gonna add value and this and that, people will not gonna record that stuff, because as I mentioned, it's a very hard technique for me. When I started recording artifact, it is also really hard for me. Okay, yeah, and I also understand that thing, because at the moment, one of my friend Prashik, I wanted to convince him to record artifact. Why? Because of that, ki if I wanted to build this application, I cannot do it by myself. I need a kind of like a some sudden help. Prashik is one of my friend who will be kind of like a helping me to build this application and things like that. But still, I mentioned him regarding about what could gonna add value and things like that. But he didn't really convince. He didn't really record the artifact. Okay, yeah. My biggest challenge is that if I'm not convinced one of my friend to record artifact, how would I supposed to be convinced to the other people to record artifact? Very challenging situation. Whatever, but is that ki this is kind of like a simply I'm being through this thing. This is kind of like a simply artifact and things and that. Now, uh, I'm actually recording this thing for 10 year. I have all the memories that actually stored or record in artifact in date wise. Okay, yeah. Like I still know that what was I thinking at almost like a 5 year ago. Okay, exactly 5 year ago. That means 2nd of September 2020. What I was thinking at that moment, because I already record artifact, so probably I do know what was I thinking about that day. Okay. Uh Now let's jump back into question. The question says that, okay, what if we could upload our memories? Okay, yeah. Well, probably is this thing. This is a kind of like basically is this thing na ki if I'm try to think about that way, can we kind of like simply upload our memories? Like basically, can you say that ki when you record the artifact, you actually upload your memories? Yes. Yeah. Then basically is this thing that ki you are really smart or things like, I don't know how do I supposed to give any kind of like a some answer. Just give me kind of like a some imaginary things that ki what if everyone would kind of like a record the artifact? Okay, yeah. What would be that reality? Because artifact is a kind of like assembly is the way that you are actually uploading the memories. So as everyone would kind of like upload their memories, then what would be that reality? um First of all is that ki uh, people will be very clear regarding about what they want in their life. As I mentioned, artifact is try to connect with you. It kind of like gives you the purpose that why are you born here and things like that. um, if everyone would kind of like simply record the artifact, people will be very purposeful regarding about what they exactly want in their life. Okay, one thing. Another thing is that their emotions would be very much control. Okay, like whatever they wanted to kind of like express or things and that they will gonna all the express will in the artifact, but in real world they will kind of like simply just act as a very peacefully. Okay, yeah. Like as I mentioned, this artifact is a kind of like a simply empty auditorium that you can scream, you can loud, you can sing very like not good voice. It's a kind of like a simply training net practice. You just express your thoughts, how dirty, how wrong was that, just like basically just release all those stress and things like that. Okay, yeah. uh it's kind of like a simply I wanted to create an artifact as a kind of like a simply dumping yard that people would kind of like a dump everything that what is actually have in their mind. Okay, yeah. and they would be kind of like a stress free. So if the people would kind of like record the artifact, they will become very stress free. They would kind of like look at the life in very positive way, because when they kind of like release their stress, express your thoughts and things like that, they will understand what is actually good things that they have, and they wanted to kind of like look at that good thing. Artifact is not just kind of like a some dumping yard. It is also kind of like a something is this thing that ki I ask bunch of questions in artifact regarding about this question, regarding about I ask thousands of questions. Okay, yeah. And when I give the kind of like a some answer, I would try to understand myself. I would try to understand the world and everything around us or everything around me. People will gonna do the same thing. When the people will gonna give the answer, people will kind of like understand what is actually their life, their existence, their meaning of life, their purpose of the life, and things like that. Yeah. Now I have to be like there is a lot of good stuff. Okay, yeah. But there is a bad stuff too. Okay. What is actually is this thing? What is actually that bad stuff? I don't want to people should supposed to be record only artifact. Okay, yeah. I know that it felt really good, but it shouldn't supposed to be addiction. Like people just recording artifact and they are not doing anything. There might be kind of like something very lot consequences. I don't know about that, but what I'm like basically it's a very kind of like a something very hard to explain this thing, but let me give you the context. Okay, yeah. Artifact is not the addiction. Artifact is kind of like something that you feel really good. Yeah. But this is the kind of like some beginning steps of addiction that you feel really good, like a smoking or alcohol. It felt really good. Okay, yeah. Is artifact is the addiction? Well, probably is this thing that it is not, or it is not. Okay, yeah. Why is that? Like basically is this thing na ki when you smoke, you just smoke. You don't really require any kind of like effort to smoking. Nothing really at all. For alcohol, you don't really put any kind of like effort to drink the alcohol. You just drink it. Okay, yeah. But the artifact is a kind of like a something very different way. Yes, it felt really good, but you have to put the effort. Like basically, I'm actually giving the answer, so I'm actually putting the effort. I'm thinking about what would be that answer and try to kind of like analyze what would be the best answer that I would kind of like explain this thing. When I try to give the answer, I'm putting effort to kind of like give the answer. And when you give any kind of like effort in something, that thing is might not be addiction, or probably is this thing, right? Because but dude, the video game is also kind of like some same thing, na? People are putting the effort, right, to win the level and things like that. So playing a game is addiction, then recording artifact is why not addiction? Well, basically it's this thing that yes, playing a game is a effort, yeah, but that effort is actually designed by the developer, the game developer, that what kind of like a challenges that player should supposed to be face while playing the game. Okay, yeah. And they actually already set path, they already developed the set path that where should player should supposed to be go along and that way. But in artifact there is no set path, there is nothing like regarding about question that you have, your answer might be very different, very different. Okay, yeah. You might kind of like tell us regarding about the situation and surrounding what is at least similar thing is actually happening, stuff like that, like basically same question. Okay, yeah. And the question is actually about that what if we could upload our memories in some sort of device. I am actually telling this thing regarding about artifact, because artifact is actually kind of like a somebody perform as an equivalent kind of like a somebody way that uploading memories and stuff like that. Okay, so if I'm trying to think that is artifact is addiction, then probably it's not. Okay, yeah, it's not. But still, I think that I might kind of like a thinking from wrong perspective, or maybe I'm actually thinking from only from my point of perspective. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing that maybe some people just kind of like a simply living in their artifact. Now, what is actually living in the artifact? Okay, um okay, I'm kind of like a give you any kind of like a some example. Okay, yeah, have you ever dreamed about that uh you when like suddenly you are walking and suddenly you get millions of dollars of suitcase beside the road, and you just take it and you are kind of like imagine that how do you supposed to spend that millions of dollar? Probably you and I, everyone kind of like dream about that particular scenario, that when you get free money, then how do you supposed to spend that money and things like that. Okay, yeah, what exactly I'm trying to tell you is this thing that when the people will gonna kind of like record the artifact, they just, but still not, this thing is not exactly right, dude. Like basically if I'm kind of like basically my what exactly I'm thinking that people just record the artifact, people just record the artifact every single day and things like that, then like every single time, then is it kind of like a wrong thing happen? It's like, I don't know, dude, but you cannot record all the time. Okay, yeah, like basically is this thing recording means like that you have to be kind of like a talk, and you need to talk about something, and how much you could talk regarding about something. Okay, you are kind of like a feel with lot of stuff that you wanted to release, you can talk like basically the maximum time I record the artifact, it's been almost like a 1 hour or maybe probably 2 hour, but I didn't really cross more than 2 hour because I was really tired to kind of like a talk of consistency for 2 hour. Definitely not. Okay, so probably is this thing people might not record all the time. Okay, probably. Okay, I'm kind of like thinking about all the worst possible thing that would kind of like simply happen. Another worst possibility that ki, people might think that the artifact is the only one thing that I would kind of like a talk, and they will not kind of like a prioritize their another relation. Like example is this thing that ki they have a girlfriend, they have a boyfriend, but even if they have a girlfriend, boyfriend, or a close person, instead of them, they are kind of like a sharing all the detail in the recording artifact. Okay, yeah, because artifact is literally easy, no one is actually judge, you just kind of like express your thoughts and things like that. Okay, yeah, so probably is this thing, it would kind of like a simply it would kind of like a simply the kind of like a simply diminishing the kind of like a something relation between you and your partner. Like will it be that, like example is this thing, imagine a artifact episode is a kind of like a something a beautiful girl that is kind of like a somebody living with you, no one will actually see, just you just kind of like a see. Okay, yeah, and you just talk with her regarding about everything, what exactly happened and things like that. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing, the amount of time that you spend with someone else, you're not actually spending with them, you just kind of like a spending only recording artifact. Then basically what would gonna happen, basically is it, first of all let me tell you one thing, is it kind of like something right or wrong that people just kind of like somebody just talking with that talking just recording artifact all the time and they are not kind of like talking with someone else, then is it right or wrong? It's a wrong, it is definitely wrong. Okay, yeah, then how do I supposed to kind of like simply figure it out? That's a big problem, dude. um um probably is this thing, like I'm actually thinking about all the possible scenario. Okay, let me tell you one thing, I'm actually recording artifact for last 10 year, and I never really had any kind of like a girlfriend or never really had any kind of like a something relationship. I never really been on relationship. Okay, yeah. In reality, I am very calm person. I usually speak kind of like a somebody talk less. Okay, yeah. Like basically, I'm kind of like a 90% of entire talking is actually in the artifact, 10% in real world. Okay, yeah. Um, but what I realize regarding about stuff, okay, yeah, regarding about that, ki am I just emphasizing only in recording artifact? Not, but I don't know. It's like basically it's this thing na ki I record artifact for I would perform much better in real life. Okay. I never really have any kind of like assembly intention to kind of like assembly only just record artifact and not gonna face the real world and things like that. It's a kind of like assembly is this thing that ki you are only imagine that ki you are kind of like living a really good life, but in reality you just not. So okay, like first of all, does it gonna affect the relationship? I don't know about that. Yeah, I just don't know. Yeah, uh, I need to experience that thing. But how do I supposed to experience? Like fall in someone love and kind of like somebody had experience regarding about that. I don't know. It's like basically it's this thing na ki like all the kind of like somebody evidence are pointed towards that ki basically artifact will kind of like somebody reduce the relation between the boy and girl or any kind of like stuff like that. But my mind and my heart is kind of like a telling me that it would not gonna happen, but I didn't really have any kind of like a proof to say that thing. uh okay, let me give you the context. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing. I am not been on any relationship. Okay, yeah. But the way that I interact with the people, I interact them in very good way. Okay, yeah. Or maybe something that ki I don't know. At the moment, I don't really have any kind of like some answer. But probably my heart is kind of like a telling me that ki my instinct is actually telling me that ki no, it will not gonna affect the relationship. It actually improve our relationship. But how is that thing? How is that? Um. Okay, this is like a basically I haven't really have any kind of like experience in relationship, but what I think that what would gonna happen. Okay, in the relationship, um, the boy and girl are always kind of like a something that ki like basically it's very hard to maintain the relationship. Okay, between boy and girl because the thoughts the because of kind of like some way that people act and things and that. Okay, yeah. um First of all is that ki there are a couple of things that actually happened. Okay, when I record the artifact, I am not that much impulsive. Okay, yeah. What's impulsive? Impulsive means like that ki taking decision rationally or things like that. I am actually taking decision very wisely. Okay, regarding about everything. Okay, that what would I supposed to do and this decision would kind of like add value in my life or not. Okay. Uh and basically it will gonna do the same thing. Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing, if the people are in relationship, artifact will kind of like a simply help them to kind of like a build better relationship. Okay, yeah. How is that gonna possible? um let me tell you one thing that ki my application is actually kind of like okay, let me kind of like give the context about how is exactly my application will gonna work. At the moment, I've just kind of like have a thoughts. I didn't really build any application, but I think that ki my application would kind of like build like that way. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing. When I record the artifact, I kind of like ask question regarding about multiple things, like this, like a kind of like a talking about kind of like a, what if this happened or stuff and stuff and stuff and okay, yeah. My application will kind of like also do the same thing. My application will kind of like suddenly ask bunch of questions to the people to record artifact and things like that. Okay, yeah. Now people will gonna give the answer. Let me give you context. When the question is actually asked about science, people are kind of like simply giving the answer regarding about science. Okay. Also the answer might not exactly right, but kind of like they will kind of like express their thoughts regarding about what exactly their point and things like that. Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing asking this question is kind of like a bit really helpful for kind of like a simply channelizing people in right direction. Okay. Uh, it means that ki, like sometimes in my application we're gonna ask a bunch of questions to the people that how is exactly kind of like a simply what kind of like a simply way that you kind of like a simply do better your relationship or kind of like a things that he like basically how do you supposed to improve our relationship, like what is actually way that you kind of like do to improve our relationship. And the when the people will actually give any kind of like answer regarding about relationship, they will gonna talk about that ki what exactly they have relationship. And when I ask them that ki what is exactly kind of like a improve your relationship, they will kind of like a give some sort of ideas that I would gonna do this, I would gonna go to the date and things and that and that and that. Okay, when those people will actually give the answer regarding about that ki they will gonna do this thing for improve their relationship, obviously they will kind of like a perform that improvement in somewhere na, with kind of like assembly with their girlfriend or boyfriend or things like that. Okay, yeah. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki like my gut feeling is actually telling me I don't really have any kind of like a proper evidence regarding about that because I never really been on relationship. But my gut feeling is actually telling me that ki it will gonna definitely add value. Okay, it's not really that ki it's a tear apart, but it definitely gonna add value in our relationship. Okay, like basically I understand that what exactly she want, and she would understand what exactly I want, and basically is this thing we would understand each other much better way. Okay, yeah. But let me tell you one thing, the artifact is a kind of like something very private, very privacy. Like basically is this thing no one will know, no one will gonna know that key. Like you can't able to share your artifact, you cannot share your handle because you don't know the handle probably. It's like basically I'm gonna make sure that if you are kind of like a sharing your details and things like that, it is my job to kind of like a secure that privacy, to kind of like a maintain your privacy, that people will not gonna know who you are. People, you just kind of like a tell the story regarding about what is actually happening in your life and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, without kind of like a knowing the name and things and that. Okay, yeah. If I kind of like a maintain the privacy, then probably is this thing it is really far more better for them to kind of like a sort trust me and kind of like a record their stories and things and that. Okay. So basically is this thing when the people are actually fall in love and when the both the people are actually recording artifact, they will not gonna know each other. They will gonna know that ki my partner is actually kind of like a recording artifact, but probably there is no way that kind of like a somebody that your partner will gonna know what is your exactly your handle, or you don't know the exactly handle. Because let me tell you one thing now, artifact the like basically is this thing artifact the is actually work in alone. Like alone means what? Like basically is this thing that ki like okay, let me give you the context. Okay, yeah. Why I'm not kind of like a letting share their artifact with their relationship with their kind of like a partner. Like let's just example that ki I'm actually recording artifact. Okay, yeah. My girlfriend is actually recording artifact. why I cannot share my handle with her, or why cannot, like basically this thing, it's been really curiosity na, like basically artifact is a kind of like a dumping ground that people just kind of like a dump everything that what is actually happened in their life and stuff like that. So if I wanted to know her, I would probably listen her artifact na, right? Well, that is completely wrong. That is completely wrong. Because let me give you the context. Okay, yeah, if you are kind of like a simply just thinking that ki first of all I would kind of like a listen her artifact and then I will gonna build the relationship, then probably is this thing, you are not trusting her, you are trusting her artifact. Okay, yeah. And because of you are trusting her artifact, you are kind of like a build the relationship with that particular trust of artifact. You are not trusting her. It's what I'm trying to tell you is this thing na ki, like basically when you fall in love with somebody, you have to be fall in love with that particular person, accept that person, that ki that particular person actually recording artifact. Okay, yeah. And that particular person has a kind of like a some sort of history that you don't know that, but you have to be accept that thing ki this is the past is past, right now it's a present and she is with me, and this is all matter for me. Sometime trust, sometime giving the space is far more important in relationship instead of knowing her the past and things and that because people change, I change, you change, everyone change. Okay, yeah. Our thoughts change, our priority change, our, like basically is this thing within a 10 year your entire body is actually change. Yeah, like literally your cell is actually kind of like a change within a kind of like a decade and things like that. Everything is gonna change. Change is inevitable, it has to be happen. It kind of like a universal law. And if you are just thinking about that ki what is actually like I wanted to know my girlfriend past history, that what she actually been through, and that history is actually record in her artifact, then probably it's kind of like a showing the evidence of distrust. And when you are kind of like a build the relationship with that distrust, that relationship will might not gonna survive and things like that. In that particular situation, artifact will not gonna do anything at all. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki artifact is not meant to be shared. Okay, yeah. Because like basically is this thing, if you could share your artifact, if you could kind of like a share your handle and things and that, you are really vulnerable regarding about your thoughts. Let me tell you one thing, a kind of like a, okay, give me example. You wrote the diary, are you capable enough, or are you kind of like a somebody willing to share your diary with someone else? Are you that kind of like a person? You are not, na. Your diary is one of the kind of like a very personal matter, and you don't want to share that thing. Okay, this is what exactly the artifact, na. You are in the artifact, you are kind of like a recording your very deep thought, and probably you don't want to share those things with the kind of like a somebody the people that you know. You might gonna like basically is this thing that ki your artifact will gonna kind of like listen by the random people. Okay, what is actually random people? It means that na, ki when you record the artifact will kind of like a somebody act as a kind of like a somebody a YouTube video. Okay, yeah. Means like that people will gonna upload the video and other people will gonna listen the watch your video. It's kind of like the same thing. You gonna record the artifact and people will gonna kind of like a listen the artifact. Okay, yeah. Why am I kind of like a letting your artifact to random stranger, but why am I not letting artifact to the people that matter, like your girlfriend or things or boyfriend or stuff like that? Why not? Like why your artifact is actually shared by the random people, but why your artifact is not actually shared with a kind of like a girlfriend and boyfriend and things like that? I realize in my life, okay, yeah, that people, what is actually different between the people that you know and the random stranger? A random stranger is not connect with you with any way, nothing really at all. And the random stranger is actually looking at you a kind of like a third way, a third person. Okay, now what is actually third person? Like, let me kind of like give you the context. Okay, if you are actually listening your girlfriend's artifact, then probably is this thing you are started judging her, because the way that she says and way that she act in real life, you know her, and you kind of like found a very difference between that. Okay, like let me give you the context that ki, if like basically if you know me, okay, if you personally know me and if you are kind of like listening this artifact, you will find out very differently that ki, I speak very well in English, but in reality I speak my original language, Marathi. Okay, or maybe I talk so much in artifact, but in reality I talk very less. Okay, or like there is a lot of things. Like basically is this thing that ki, we are the humans and we are really expert in kind of like a found the difference between what is actually like this is difference and this is not. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing: when your girlfriend or boyfriend will gonna listen your artifact, and basically they will started compare your artifact and you. Okay, and when this thing happen, it's gonna start chaos, literally gonna chaos, because you just kind of like somebody thinking about her in that way, but in reality she might be very different person. Okay, and this is what kind of like a thing is that now basically is this thing na ki, yeah, like basically in our thoughts we are trying to express our thoughts and things like that, but in reality we might be very completely different person. Yeah, very different person, dude. Like basically is this thing, why we are a different person, dude? Like basically I'm talking about thoughts na. Okay, wait, okay, where was I? Sorry, I was kind of like something. Okay, it's been almost like a 52 minute. I'm just talking, but it's a very important stuff to talk. Okay, okay, what was I talking? I was actually talking about that key. Okay, I'm actually talking about that key difference. Okay, like the people would kind of like suddenly record the artifact, they would kind of like suddenly acted very differently in real life. Why there is a difference? um why there is a difference? Yeah, why there is a difference? Okay, why not they are kind of like some similar person, like basically they are sharing their thoughts and things like that now, so why they are not kind of like some similar person? um okay, it's not very hard to explain, but you just have to think about very different point of perspective. Okay, uh okay, so we are humans. Okay, and we are acted very differently according to the people. Okay, when you are in office, you are in very discipline. When you are with your friend, you are literally fun and things like that. Why? Is because of kind of like a something the because of something that ki kind of like a something, we have some sort of rules to live. Okay, we cannot kind of like somebody making fun of your office colleague, but you can make fun of your friend. Why? Because office colleague is a office colleague, but your friend is your friend. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki when we are living in real life, we are follow some sort of rules and regulations, and kind of like somebody is this thing that ki we cannot do all the thing. Okay, we cannot kind of like somebody like say the stuff that we wanted to say. We cannot do do the stuff that we wanted to do. It's not, because in reality we are actually kind of like somebody is this thing that ki we are bounded, or we are kind of like surrounded by lot of rules and regulations, and kind of like something the hesitations and things like that. Okay, this is what it is. But artifact is a very different way. Artifact is a kind of like a dumping ground. As I mentioned, is a dumping ground that ki you just express everything regarding about what exactly happened with you and stuff like that. So if you are allowed to do a freedom, then probably you are actually expressing yourself. But in reality, we don't really get that much freedom. So because of the freedom, like at some place you are getting so much freedom and at some place you don't really get the freedom, so the way that you act is very differently, right? So this might be a happen that ki your personality might be little bit different than artifact, but how much difference? It's not entirely different, probably maybe 70%. Okay, yeah, means like that ki um, in real life and your artifact life will gonna match 70%. 30% might be different. Okay, 70, it's still very huge, but still what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, that why not 30%? Like basically this is the same person na. Okay, yeah, the recording artifact and kind of like somebody living the person is the same person. Okay, yeah, so why there is a difference? Like as I mentioned, freedom and things like that, one thing. Another thing is that he artifact is actually giving you that kind of like a freedom to express everything and stuff like that. Okay, so I think this is the way that probably is this thing that ki there is a difference between the people in artifact. Okay, yeah. Now the one of the biggest questions actually arise that ki why am I letting artifact sharing to a random stranger, but why am I not letting artifact sharing to the people that I know? Is because of that ki in front of stranger you are very free person. Okay, yeah, you are very free person. But in front of people that you know, you are really bounded by that particular relation and things like that. And you are not executing the way that you should supposed to be execute as a kind of like a person and things like that. Okay, yeah. Like I don't know, have you ever like basically is this thing, I'm kind of like somebody thinking about a human point of perspective. I don't really have any kind of like a proper evidence to kind of like tell you that, but a kind of like somebody human, like I am human, you are human too, and you are actually understand this stuff. Okay, yeah. A kind of like somebody connecting with a random stranger, it kind of like a feel really easy for you, but connecting with the kind of like a person that you know is a very hard for you. Okay, are you accepting this thing or not? Okay, yeah, this is the one thing. Now I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you answer that why am I letting artifact to the random stranger? Because the random stranger is actually kind of like a look at you a third perspective way. Okay, first of all, let me give you the context. Okay, let me kind of like a try to tell you how this actually work. Okay, when you record the artifact, let's just talk about like a basically you actually record the artifact regarding about that key how do I supposed to make my life is actually much better way. Okay, you are actually talking about a lot of stuff, you are actually talking about what is actually happening with you and things and that, and you are kind of like actually mentioned that key this is a kind of like a way that I would follow this rule, or I would kind of like follow this particular technique, or I would kind of like do the meditation, do the workout and things like that to make my life is much really better and things like that. Okay, yeah. Now you actually record the artifact for almost like half an hour regarding about how do I supposed to make my life is kind of like a much really better way. Okay, yeah, one thing. Now basically who will gonna listen that artifact? Okay, yeah, that artifact will gonna listen by the same mindset of people. Okay, the same mindset of people. Now who are those same mindset of the people? Optimistic people. Okay, yeah, the people who are kind of like a somebody really optimistic regarding about that key how does other person kind of like a make their life is actually much better way. Okay, yeah, so those people will kind of like somebody listen your artifact. Okay, yeah, but how do you supposed to be judge, or how do you supposed to figure it out that key this is the kind of like somebody right person? Is because of the past history and because of the past stuff that he talk. Let me tell you one thing, my application is actually kind of like a powered by AI, artificial intelligence. Okay, artificial intelligence will kind of like somebody understand who you are and try to connect with the kind of like somebody right audience to you. Okay, yeah, it's kind of like a somebody Facebook and kind of like a somebody Instagram and kind of like a somebody everything does. Like basically when I open my Instagram platform, in my feed it kind of like a show me photographs, it kind of like a show me the filmmaking stuff, it kind of like a show me kind of like a somebody creative ideas and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, why Instagram is actually showing those particular stuff, because I'm really interested in that, because my previous history is kind of like a somebody telling me that I'm really excited to kind of like a somebody see in a filmmaking stuff, or I'm kind of like really excited to see a filmmaking stuff or stuff like that. So that's why in my Instagram feed is actually showing me those kind of like category of video, right? Open your Instagram, open your YouTube, it kind of like a somebody acted very same as it is. Means like that ki when you open your YouTube, it kind of like a show it the kind of like a somebody that ki what is actually that you previously watched, and it kind of like a somebody resonate with a similar thing. Okay, yeah, kind of like a some interested topic that you kind of like a really interested to know and things like that. Okay, yeah, this is exactly happened in my artifact too. Like basically my artifact will kind of like a connect like to the people that have similar mindset. Like basically is this thing, if the person who's kind of like a recording about that ki, how do I supposed to make my life is kind of like a somebody as much as better it could be, that particular artifact will kind of like a somebody resonate or kind of like a somebody recommend to the people who are kind of like a somebody seeking for that particular information, and they will get that particular information. Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, and also random person will not gonna judge you, because random person will kind of like a thinking that you are just a random person. You cannot know who is that person. You don't know nothing really about that. You just kind of like a seen a kind of like a some particular handle regarding about that Prozac 1943, and that's it. And you actually seen kind of like a somebody how much follower that they have and things like that. But besides that, you don't know who is that person. You don't know where is that particular person from. You just heard that particular person's stories and things like that, and you resonate with that story, and you kind of like feel that ki, yeah, this is also kind of like actually my story too, and stuff like that. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing, the value of appreciation or value of connecting thoughts is actually come from the random stranger. But when I recommend your artifact to the people that you know, you will literally hesitate. Imagine that ki, okay, let's take an example. Okay, yeah, I don't know it's actually happening with you or not, but have you ever blocked your family member from your Instagram? Block or kind of like unfriend or things like that. Have you ever done that? I did that. Probably you did that too. Why? Because of that, ki the connection between us and friend and connection between us and family is very different. In front of friend, we are kind of like a somebody just blunt and things, and kind of like a somebody the blend with a kind of like a somebody whatever it is. Okay, we just free. But in front of family, we are kind of like a somebody create a very special kind of like a somebody image, and we wanted to maintain that image. We want to kind of like a maintain that image. It would not gonna harm and things like that. So that's why we just kind of like simply block our family member from social media platform. Because of that, in the social media platform, we are meant to be share our thoughts and things like that. But when your family is actually found that you are actually kind of like a sharing this thing and that, it might gonna kind of like some little bit problem to you. So that's why you are actually blocking your family member. And not just you, I also blocked that thing, and not just you and me, everyone has actually done that thing. Okay, because let me tell you one thing, our image is very different than where we hang out. We hang out with a friend, we actually acted very differently. We are actually, when we are in front of family, we are actually acted very differently. Get it? So it's a very different way. Okay, so that's why I'm not recommending your artifact to the people that you know. And also, I am not kind of like somebody sharing your artifact. Like basically, in my application, there is no share button. You cannot share your artifact with someone else. And as also your handle is also kind of like somebody that key probably like a that you don't know. Like basically this thing, you make your handle kind of like somebody just like I create my Instagram handle, so I create my artifact handle like my name as a Saurabh Author is my name. But my ID is kind of like a somebody visible to the public is a very different that I don't know. So basically is this thing, if I kind of like somebody share this is my ID to the kind of like somebody your girlfriend or boyfriend, that girlfriend boyfriend might not gonna found out that, because your public ID is a very different that you don't know that. Okay, yeah. So it's very hard to find to the people that you know that what is actually your personal ID. Okay, get it? I don't know. I'm trying to explain as kind of like simply as like, okay, if you are kind of like thinking me that ki, why are you kind of like doing this thing? Why are you kind of like simply just make the people kind of like simply share their name and things, and why are you kind of like focus on privacy so much that ki you are not kind of like letting artifact to the people that we know? Because it's not, nah, it's not. My main purpose of recording artifact is meant to be improve you, meant to be kind of like somebody better at you, like, and it actually happened when you are get free, and that freedom is actually comes from not how, like, how do you supposed to fly when you are attached with something? You cannot fly, right? A bird cannot fly until and unless you just kind of like tie that leg to the someone else, something else. No, it's not gonna happen. My platform is kind of like a meant for people to express the thoughts and things like that. It's a dumping yard. Let me tell you one thing: when you record artifact, your thoughts are really really raw. Raw means uncooked, unfiltered. That means the stuff that you will gonna mention is not exactly right, completely wrong, completely wrong. Like basically this, sometimes I record the artifact, I just realize that, dude, what the fuck I record, dude, just like I was completely wrong about that particular stuff. This is what exactly happened, that key, I want you to kind of like when you record the artifact, you just kind of like simply blunt it out without kind of like having hesitation that what is actually right or wrong. You just express everything, just let it out, let it out, let it out. Okay, yeah, don't really worry about privacy, don't really worry about anything, just let it out, everything from inside of you. Okay, yeah, because when you do that thing, there is a one thing that remaining is a good thing, a kind of like assembly way that you, when you express your stress into this artifact, what kind of like a remain inside of you, a calmness. And I want that calmness in real life. I want that calmness. When you have that calmness, you're gonna utilize that calmness for become better at you at something, probably. I want that. I want that. Okay, yeah, basically all the frustration that you have, express yourself, just dump it out, just release everything. I want that. I want that. Okay, and this is my platform is actually about that. Okay, dude, I'm just kind of like talking for almost like a 1 hour 7 minute. Okay, but I haven't really talked about kind of like a simply question. The question is that what if kind of like a simply we would kind of like a simply upload our thoughts and things like that. Probably you are kind of like hearing this noise. Okay. The question is that what if we could upload our memories in our computer and things like that. I think it's a really good thing to do that thing. We would access that memories, we will understand ourselves much better way and things like that. But I think that whatever I do, it comes with the consequences. Every action that we do, right and wrong, it comes with the consequences. And if I make this platform to the people, I'm trying to make sure that the bad consequences happen less. Like basically I cannot eliminate. People will gonna utilize my platform for wrong reason too. That is for sure, because those are people. We are living in the world where every person is kind of like different than each other. Okay, yeah. And it is kind of like something really good to have different kind of like people. So that's why we are kind of like improve. Okay, yeah. Having different people is really right for the society. Okay, yeah. I want that people should supposed to be criticize me, because it kind of like give me that improvement, that I might kind of like did something wrong and then I have to fix it. Obviously, is this thing that sometimes I don't know, I don't really have any kind of like word to explain this thing, but I think that because of artifact is actually work for me, it kind of like adds so much value inside of me. I'm truly believe that it will gonna definitely add value in you, and I believe that I believe that it would definitely gonna add a value. I don't really have any proper evidence. I don't really have any kind of like some stuff that I would kind of like show it to you. It's kind of like a things that ki you just feel it, and and this is what it is. We are humans. I am human. You are human, and we actually connect. That ki we are getting something right. Like basically this thing example now. When you solve equation, like example is this thing, you are solving the kind of like some differential equation or any kind of like some equation, a numerical. Okay, yeah. When you really good at that, when you solve the multiple numericals, you feel really good. Have you ever experienced that thing? Okay, yeah. Like basically, like basically this thing na ki it is that na ki when you know the answer and when you write down the answer in the exam sheet, you feel good na. This is what exactly. When you are kind of like a running and you know that you will gonna finish the race first because you believing that and you feel good. Yeah, you are kind of like a feel lot of pressure at that time. You are running really fast and things like that. But at internally you feel good. This is what kind of like a somebody that value that I will gonna provide through my platform. That people will kind of like get some sort of values. I hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Probably this is the kind of like some reality that we are living. Because the way that I'm thinking, probably not everyone would gonna think that way. But still, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. All right. So this is it. I should supposed to be end here, and thank you.